So I was reading through some of my old trip reports, and I didn't realize how many pharmawaska experiences I had, specifically when I was going through my psychotic episode. But now that I remember it, I was, I guess, searching for something at the time, and I was using heavy doses as a way to, I guess, look for that. And I was writing about each one, so I have a bunch of reports that I was able to read from and get, I guess, things to discuss right now. I should say, though, that reading through them kind of makes me facepalm a bit because the state that I was in was a lot different than the state I am in now, because this was back in 2014. I think this trip report was written, 2014, 2015. And I was much younger back then and didn't have the kind of experience and I guess state of mind that I'm in right now. So it's funny to look at it in that kind of perspective. And I understand, though, that the way I was speaking was because during that psychotic episode there was a moment where, or I guess through that whole phase, it was an experience of dropping the boundaries. You know how they always talk about boundary dissolving, and that's what psychedelics do, and that's what psychosis tends to do to people. I think in this state I was too open, and it was a point of pathological openness where I accepted any idea that I felt fit in with a narrative that I was thinking about. And also the things that I would talk about, I didn't have a specific filter where you would normally, anytime you're about to say something, you always filter it through this thing where you think, is this going to be received well by other people? You don't want to say things that might be embarrassing or not socially normal, I think. And at that point, I didn't really care about that. I just wanted to, any thought that it came into my head, I just wanted to express it. And I feel like that could potentially be good for creativity and not censoring any thought that might come to you, but there's a balance that you want to hold. I don't think you want to let go of the ego thing completely to analyze what you're doing, to make sure that it's in line with everything else, so it doesn't stand out and be an eyesore. I think it's interesting to see what kinds of things that I thought about the oral DMT experience back then, specifically the high dose experience. And one comment that I made specifically kind of jumped out at me. It's like being on the receiving end of Ryu's hyper combo finish Hadouken beam. Hyper combo finish! So I'll get into the trip report right now. It's basically, here, I'll start reading it here. It says, "Hey guys, I'm gonna have a pharmawaska trip tonight at 200 milligrams of DMT and 4 grams of Syrian Rue. I just swallowed the Syrian Rue, and it's getting harder and harder for me to keep it down without vomiting it up, but unfortunately today I've managed." And then I said, scaling the 200 milligrams of DMT now. So basically what I do is I'll take the Rue, grind it into a powder, and then drink it with orange juice, and then drink the orange juice as a chase to make sure I don't throw it up. And then I'll take a DMT capsule of the freebase 25 minutes later and take swig it down with orange juice so that it converts it to an acid and it's not a freebase anymore. And so I wrote, it's like, yeah. First off, I felt an uncomfortable cold coming from the window as I was lying on my bed. This compelled me to put my bed sheets over my head as the trip started to come on. Soon after, I felt what appeared to be difficulty breathing. Usually when this happens, as I said, I start to take deep, controlled, and focused breaths like meditators and brace for high speed like a roller coaster. Right away, I was in a semi-lucid, out-of-body type state, but I was still attached to my physical body with a spiritual umbilical cord. Things quickly took a dark turn, and I had a vision of a clown-type entity that had the characteristics of Freddy Krueger, and he was haunting my dream. My bedsheets felt like they were losing dimensionality, and I felt an outside force, perhaps coming from outside my blankets, pushing my feet together. This caused a little bit of fear because I envisioned myself being tied up in a web. This was only a test for what was about to come next. I felt as if I was dropped down a tunnel and went from half-conscious half out of body to being completely out of body. But I was not in hyperspace. Instead, I was just blackness and a door. And the door opened, and at first there was nothing, but what emerged from the shadows shocked me at first with fear. The feeling of first breaking through and staring into this entity from another world struck my mind. Its representation and movement, the way it dances and liquids forward, juggling parts of itself like a confused, deranged circus performer. Something about this creature was so eerie. It had a consistency and pliability of clay, with smooth edges, and where parts of it would shuffle and expose what appeared to be an abyss of blackness not unlike black holes. Such a scene caused disturbing feelings inside, perhaps as a defense mechanism. This entity was from hyperspace. Its heavy, in-your-face, complex, moving, sensory overloading nature was a dead giveaway, only the overload was not sheer awe, it was complete terror, which perhaps is still awe in retrospect. This being represent lies, control, but it came off as a jester, just with terrible intentions. I tried to face it and stare into it like I do with every entity, but this caused me distress to do this, and I could not focus. It would get too intense and scary. While it was juggling with what looked like white piano gloves, out came 3 symbols that I could not quite focus on. This thing came off as a juggernaut or a behemoth. Immediately I felt as if I was on the holodeck in Star Trek and someone just turned the safety off. I started to panic a little and thought, oh, I think I took it too far and actually conjured up something real, so in a state similar to when you encounter a bully in real life. My thoughts went blank, and I was just focusing on any instinctual thing I could to keep me safe from this experience. And ideas started popping into my head like Project Love, like this dangerous animal can pick up on my every thought. I notice as I rise above the entity and it is no longer able to touch me, a relief washes over me like liquid trophies. I feel as if I beat the demon with love. Suddenly the ground whips away like black and white checkered patterns, and it leaves a galaxy or universe exposed with me in the center. And this went on for a long time, and it was a vast open space. I could see galaxy clusters and planets. Everything after this was pretty much a blackout, and then I wake up back in my room feeling like I'm loaded on mushrooms and start speaking in gibberish for a few hours and actually crazy but calm. I usually have a lot of energy, so my body ends up habitually expelling it through liquid hand movements, like the rave stuff, and that's about it. And it's funny that stuff happens. I almost feel like the liquiding stuff came from psychedelic experiences, because you just feel like you want to do that because there's a specific flow that you want to have with the experience. And I find that any sort of movement helps my trip so that there's not more anxiety, because I feel like there's a lot of energy that I need to release, and it's good to release it with, I guess, the liquiding stuff. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. There's definitely more trips that I have too, so I'll read those to you guys. But I thought you guys would enjoy that one, and yeah, I'm probably gonna have another DMT experience soon. There's things that I do have to work on and focus on, so I don't know how many experiences I'll be able to have, but I'll definitely have something to be able to write about, or I mean talk about in this trip report stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll leave you guys with a work in progress of something that I'm working on right now. Actually, it's a digital painting of a new piece that I'm working on, and I'm using a lot of Grabado bots and trying to blend them properly with digital painting stuff. And I think it's coming by okay, but I'm just gonna see where it takes me. So I'll see you guys later.